Welcome back to the Game Changers podcast, guys. My name is Jay Taft. I'm with my friend Ben Gluntz.
And I'm a game changer.
Oh, are you?
Well, I tend to think so. I don't know if I am or not.
As long
Well, if I'm on this podcast,
then
then
I
I'm a game
think
changer.
you are. I mean, I have you on here for a reason.
Then I'm a game changer.
He's a game changer. So. So it's really cool with Ben. One, we'll dive into it, but we've known each other just for like a very long time. A long time. We've met through basketball, which is we're going to talk about. But also, too, Ben is an amazing photographer and filmmaker.
Aw.
Thank
you.
You're welcome. So I'm just really excited to kind of dive into some conversation. But Ben, even though right now your main occupation is in the like content creation, creative world, okay? You were a baller at one point. I would say you kind of still are.
I still am a baller, all right? It doesn't matter what I do. I'll always be a baller.
You always
I
be
get
a
people
baller.
tell me that at the gym.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
I'm certified.
You're a certified baller.
I was a baller.
Guys,
I'm not 80 yet, and even if I am 80, I'm still going to be a baller.
I love that mindset. So with that being said, though, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give your younger basketball self if you were to go back and do it again?
Make no excuses for your work ethic. It's a lot of lessons I've been learning the past couple years. Just doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Can't rely on anybody else to do things for you. And so it's just that extreme ownership that you have to have. And I had people telling me that back then, and I just wish I would have listened. So
I like that. I like the word ownership. I really want to talk about that. But one thing before we do that is the connection I made again, and why I was just talking about like what you're doing now versus like the sports is, I think it's such a cliche thing to say that like sports like teach you a lot of like life lessons. Like a lot of people say that, but like until you're out of sports or not an athlete anymore, and now you're like doing other things, like you really realize, holy crap. So let's just talk about that a little bit, like the no excuses, the effort, ownership over that. Where have you seen that, and what have you been learning recently, maybe like specifically if you don't mind sharing, from like, okay, no excuses or ownership in sports versus now not being an athlete?
Well, funny enough, I think I still am learning that as an athlete. It just looks different. Like I'm not training to be a basketball player. I'm not training for games or anything, tournaments. It's more so just like training my mind and body to act as one and to continually push myself because I know I am capable of things. I've just tricked myself over the years that I'm not capable. And so just kind of like rewiring that. I think from a physical standpoint really quick, like in the past, 3 months or so, 3-4 months, I've just taken a different approach. Instead of responding to like outside motivation and being like, oh, I'm not good enough, so I'm going to do this to be better, or oh, I'm not like fast enough, strong enough, or oh, I'm lazy, then I kind of switched it up. I had a conversation with a psychology buddy of mine, and he was just like, hey, like try to develop a positive relationship with that because this is a lifelong goal of mine, not just a short term, oh, like I have basketball games, so I need to be in shape for that. It's more so now, okay, I have a life to live, and I'm not promised that life, but like, I'm given this body, so I want to steward it well, and I want to be able to be healthy when I am a dad, a grandpa, or, anything else along the lines down the road in life. So just kind of like really started at square one, knew I was like weak, and so I just started doing the little things, go for a mile jog, a half-mile jog. Whenever I was burnt or like felt like I was just like completely exhausted, stop. Just stop, take it as a win, go to the next day, do the same thing. And within 2 weeks, I was running like 2+ miles again and loving it. And I had never loved running before ever in my life. And so now even with running, like it's kind of like catapulted me. And now I just want to continue like working out my muscles, pushing myself, and realizing that there are some days where I want to push myself and can. There are some days where I don't want to push myself but should. And then there are other days where, again, that positive reinforcement I can't really push myself mentally, and so I take what I did do as a W and move to the next day and then keep going.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you said a lot of great things, and there's like 3 things that I want to pull from that. So I'm like,
Pull 'em.
Like, where do I even start? But one thing too
Pull 'em
is,
like my coach pulled me.
oh my
Just
gosh,
kidding.
that's a whole other story.
We don't have to get into that one.
That's a whole other thing. But like, if you guys have been listening to the podcast, about a few weeks ago, I dropped something about rest, and like almost like even like a more of a biblical view of rest, not just like, oh, rest. Like, no, actually hitting scripture and being like where God tells us to rest. So I think like what I really like about your point about you talking, you're not just diving full in and saying, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? You were just
I ain't David Goggins.
I know, right? Gosh, but
Homie
it's
ran 100 miles or something
That's
just out of the blue.
literally just insane.
Can't do that.
Psycho level. No, but it's like
But it's because he has a strong mind.
yeah,
you
and
know? And
but it,
part of like, part
No, yeah,
of like physical fitness is to grow that strong mind. And so some people
Yeah.
have it, so they can just push through anything.
Yeah.
Other people have to build it up to it. So
exactly,
that's me.
yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like, and I've been experiencing that. I've been very open about like my fitness journey and transitioning from athlete to now just like normal person who just wants to be healthy. And it's like kind of a challenge, but saying like, okay, I'm going to take it in baby steps. And that self-awareness, I think, is super awesome and super important. But also when you're like, no, I need a rest today, because I think we're starting to get, as a society, we all know that we want results tomorrow. Like, we want them, that instant gratification, those instant results. But what I've been trying to instill in my athletes and even parents that I've had conversations with is it's the long game. You know what I mean? Because I coach a lot of like middle school age too, and it's like your middle school daughter or son does not have to be a Division I player now. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, with my story, I got looks my junior year of high school, like serious looks, you know, while some people were getting them freshman year. Everyone has their own story, but like don't feel like right this second you have to have like your Division I like level or anything like
100%.
that.
100%. And that it went in my business journey is like a lot like that too. It's like I had to realize that while a lot of the people close to me were accomplishing really cool things in their businesses and, you know, growing at a record pace, like I knew that there were things that like I had learned and things that set me back, but I had to realize also and humble myself and start at the beginning. And even though I thought in some ways I was like, oh yeah, I'm like there as well, I had to humble myself in all areas and be like, no, I actually know nothing, and I haven't proven that I know anything. So I actually need to step back, start at the beginning, and slowly grow this thing, and be disciplined, but be consistent. And the consistency is key. And you know, it took me till I was 23 to realize that, but I'm glad it didn't take until I was 43 or 53.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. And that's where I want to circle back to the word ownership. I think like what you said is extremely important, and you're taking ownership of that journey, of your business, of your fitness, of whatever. And like going back to athletics, like I truly believe now, stepping into the coaching role and seeing it more, a lot of players, and I'd be bet willing more than most, or don't take ownership. It's all about, well, coach did this, or she did that, or he did this, it's their fault. Well, it's like, at some point, when are you going to take ownership of your athletic journey or your journey in life? And I understand, again, I've been on both sides of the spectrum.
You're in control of 90% of it.
You're in control, and I
Maybe
understand.
Maybe more. But
yeah, exactly.
obviously there are special situations out there where you're not in control, and where you maybe need to change your environment. But for the most part, you're usually in control of everything.
Exactly. And like, again, like I've been in both, where it didn't matter what I did, how much ownership, even if I felt I took too much ownership in a way of like giving myself grace versus like, no, I didn't take that ownership. I've been in both. So that's why I feel really really passionate about speaking on this topic. But it's like, okay, let's just talk about playing time. If you're not getting playing time, don't just be like, oh, coach hates me, I'm doing everything right. She or he is just like, likes this player more. And again, there are those times. I've been in those situations. But again, it's a very special situation. And that's why I always encourage my players, because I did it as well. If you are struggling with playing time, go up to your coach and say, Coach, what do you need me to do? Because again, you got to understand, it's like a boss, right?
Yeah.
If you're working for somebody, it is their company.
It's communication.
The coach,
You're
it's
not
communication.
going to get anything unless you communicate.
Exactly. As a coach, I have a specific system to my team and why I'm running it, reasons why. And there's reasons why that I want certain players to have certain skill sets or be in certain positions to make our team the most successful. So if you come to me and say, say like we're a team and we really rely on a three-point shot. And you're like, Coach, why do I not play? I'm like, well, you're not very consistent at the three, or you won't take the open shot or whatever, because that's where our offense runs from. And then you are continually not taking that feedback. Why would I play you? Now, let's correct that. Where do you take the ownership?
Yeah.
You go to the coach and say, well, how can I get better at my three-pointers, right? Okay, we give you this, that in the third. We tell you how to get better. And if you're showing that progress, or you're even showing that you're putting the work ethic, that's taking ownership of it. I'm so tired of our society just blaming everybody else or making excuses, even when it comes to like mindset stuff or relationships. I don't know. I think we always think that we're like the perfect person, or it's always like the like victim mentality, which is a whole other topic. But
well, to take it back to even faith, like let's talk about faith. In the Bible, like we're reminded over and over that we aren't perfect, and we never will be perfect here on earth, and that the only way that we're even able to be in the presence of the Lord is because of what Jesus did on the cross. So if you take everything back to that, and if that's something that you're convicted of, then that should change the whole like heart set and mindset that you have around anything that you do, whether it's a hobby or whether it's a sport, or whether it's like the way that you treat the people in your life. So for me, that rocked me, and that was the only thing that ever actually convicted me of like, oh my gosh, I'm not stewarding these things well, and then I'm not taking ownership over these things. And I am an imperfect person, and so for me to place blame on other people for my problems, that's just totally hypocritical. Because someone may come in and wreck my life. They may come in and do that. But at the end of the day, there are always things that I can look at and reflect on and realize like that was me. Like I messed up there. Yeah. I said something I shouldn't have to them that made them want to come and do harm, right? Very, very rarely is there a situation where someone just wants to come do you harm. There's no other strings attached. That is true evil. But that doesn't really happen a whole lot, especially in our society. We have a very peaceful society for the most part, except when, obviously,
there's some things,
there is strife between people.
Yeah.
Which is a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. Yeah, exactly. And again, going back, talking biblically, as Christians and people in general, we are called to serve God. And at the end of the day, when we go to those heaven gates, we answer to Him. So I want to encourage you that even though it might feel like, your coach is standing in front of you or in your way, or maybe a teammate or a parent or another authority or whatnot, taking ownership means I'm going to do everything in my power to glorify God in the way I work, through excellence, through my effort. Was I a good person? Did I steward my time well as an athlete? Was I a good communicator? Did I care? Did I serve my team or my teammates? And then, you know what? If you can't control what your coach says about you, what your teammates say about you, any of those things out of spite. You can't control if they have a negative look on you just because of an outward projection of themselves. You can't control that. But at the end of the day, when you leave, you're only answering to God. Yeah. So that's really encouraging. And that was something I wish I took more time to think about or know when I was a player, because I just ran into a lot of conflict with coaches in that way.
Yeah. Well, that's because you were a hothead, so.
Don't put me on blast like that. I was not. I had great relationships.
If you ever get the chance to play one-on-one against her.
Oh my gosh.
She'll be the first to blow up.
We're about to be a heated argument over here. No, it was just, bottom line is I ran into some politics as a player, and I think a lot of us have experienced that.
Of course.
And so at the end of the day, I did not take great ownership over it. I was always well, he did this to me, so that's why I'm not playing, where it's you know what? At the end of the day, did I steward that time well? Was I a good teammate? Did I control the controllables? And if I did, great. Because now, guess what? God has me on this different direction that he used that. But again, so if you're really struggling right now with maybe conflict with a coach or a teammate, I just encourage you to love them well and give them grace and try to get to that forgiveness, because again, like you said, we're not perfect people.
No.
And if God can give us grace, you can give someone else grace and forgiveness.
Yeah. And that lesson is going to carry on to so many other things in life, because basketball isn't life, even though that's what we say all the time. Absolutely. Ball is life, baby.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's not.
I
And
agree.
there are so many other things out there that you're going to have to work through. So many relationships, so many job opportunities, just random situations that pop up in your life. And if you're not able to give grace, you're going to live a very miserable life, because a life without grace is,
Brutal.
it's brutal. I'll just say that. I can't think of another word, but we'll just call it brutal. Yeah. So.
Exactly. Well, that's definitely a conversation that I love. Like, the word ownership just really stuck out. But I kind of want to shift gears and talk about how we met, where we met.
I was going to say, before we go.
Okay, yeah.
Do they know?
Do they know what?
That you were homeschooled.
I don't think they do.
She was homeschooled.
I was homeschooled for a year.
Still counts.
So that's what we're going to dive into. We're going to be diving into homeschool basketball. And
Bunch of nerds out here just playing ball.
bunch of nerds. I didn't know school.
Bunch of socially inept people playing basketball.
Exactly. Like, that was
That's what we're perceived as, at least.
Yeah, so there's
I was homeschooled my whole entire life.
Yeah.
She was just homeschooled a year.
a year. Yeah, so that's kind of
I'm way smarter than her.
probably. I'm not going to argue that. Public school kid.
Airhead.
Literally. No, but that's like what I wanted to dive into is homeschool basketball, because as many podcasts that I love listening to or like videos, I never hear anybody talk about homeschool basketball. And
The underworld.
It's the underworld of sports.
No one likes to talk about it.
No.
But we'll always come and beat your public school.
It's literally... Oh my gosh, he's ready. See, he's ready to fight. But it's like...
I got to defend us.
You got to defend the homeschoolers. So, I don't know. There's like definitely two perspectives here, because you were homeschooled your whole life, where I came in as a junior in high school, which is definitely a very like different period of life. You know what I mean? It was especially crucial for me because that's the time where we're really trying to find like college scholarships or what teams that we're going to. And I decided to homeschool and step away from public school to do that.
Which is a slight disadvantage when it comes to recruitment.
For sure.
It's gotten a little bit better, but back when we were playing 7 years ago
it was different.
It was bad.
It was different for sure. And I think, too, there was two different perspectives as well when we played, because obviously you played for the boys' team and I played for the girls' team. And
it's not different. What do you mean? It's the same sport.
I meant
so I don't...
your individual team versus my individual team.
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys, as your team, was a little bit more established, and then when I came into my team,
it was new.
It was building. So there was definitely like different experiences, I should say.
For sure. Yeah.
With
what was your experience?
My experience, honestly. So when I stepped into the team, like, it was amazing friendships, but it was girls who didn't have a lot of experience playing. Okay. So I came from playing varsity as a freshman, so stepping straight into it.
Ooh, okay.
Oh my God. Stepping straight into like varsity basketball.
Girls sucked.
Oh my gosh, stop. He's putting words out. But
I'm just rephrasing words.
He was just witnessing it. No, but so being more in like established programs or like schools that have been around for a while.
Yeah.
So it's like there was just a culture there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then stepping into homeschool basketball, in my case, where it was new, and I was playing with girls who were really young.
Yeah.
Because in homeschool, like, you can be like a certain age to play in varsity.
Yeah.
Where it's like at a public school, there's no way that age would be playing. So there were certain games where it was like I played middle schoolers, I felt like, versus like when we went to nationals, then I played like girls that I was used to kind of playing, like the competitiveness. I will say from my perspective though, I am, as much as like maybe the talent surrounding me didn't push me like public school in a way. I will say it pushed me to to build skill sets that I really needed, because in all of my other schools, like being a point guard, I'm not necessarily the main scorer, nor did I want to be. But when I stepped into this program, I had to score. If we wanted points on the board, like I had to score, and that's not a knock on anybody. It was just,
it's a reality.
It was just what happened. So as much as it was a very long and hard season, it really taught me like how to put the ball through the hoop, which eventually I believe helped me, have the senior year that I had and be able to get those college scholarships and stuff like that.
So you're thinking homeschool basketball?
I am.
Oh, nice.
I am thinking homeschool basketball for part of my development. It really pushed me. And then it's funny too.
I hated homeschool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, talk about your experience.
No, I didn't hate it, but I think when it comes to sports, being in the homeschool league, like my whole entire life, kind of did create a little bit of disadvantage, because I think I probably would have been pushed a little bit more just in the public school system. They do have the structure that you're talking about. I think like our team built that structure as we went on, but we didn't always have it, and so it was kind of like being homeschooled. Like you have to take a lot of responsibility into your own hands. Like you're not in the classroom every day. You're not in the gym every day with a coach breathing down your neck telling you to do this. And so if you really wanted to be great, you either had to take that responsibility on, or you had to pay extra money, hire a trainer that was going to be that person for you, because a lot of the coaches in the homeschool league are volunteer based or very lowly paid, and so they're not going to be putting in the extra time because obviously they have other jobs that they have to do. So as much as it was fun and it was like definitely a unique experience and I loved it, there are also things that I wish I could have had at a public school, but in the end,
that you could have gone to public school for sport reasons, back, or?
For sport reasons, yes. But for life reasons, no. I think the reason why I stayed homeschooled is because I recognized the lessons that I was learning for my life. And I recognized that, hey, like this is really hard because I have to take responsibility. But, I kept talking to other adults and mentors, and they were like, well, actually, life doesn't get easier. Like you have to take more and more responsibility like we were talking about. And so for me, it was more of that choice of, hey, like I want to have the freedom to either succeed or fail by like the effort that I put in, not necessarily being in a system that is just like training you to do those things and put in that effort. And not that it's bad. I think every person is different. But for me, I just chose that way because I knew even though it would be harder, it would have like a better reward on the back end. So. Yeah,
and I think another perk of being homeschooled that I noticed was just in general, the nature of homeschool is typically religion, like faith, and typically. I know it's not all the time.
It definitely was a huge part of the movement back in the 60s.
But especially like growing up in Indiana, that was very, I would argue 95% of people that homeschooled, it was centered around faith. And so that was a cool experience coming from public school where we were still in the Midwest, so still being a Christian is accepted widely. But it was definitely different being able to step into faith a little bit more as that, because it was more welcomed, right? Like it was a center, or it was a core value, which in public school, you're dealing with a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds.
Yeah, which isn't bad.
Which is not bad, and I actually loved and admired, but I think that was
sometimes,
cool.
We may have focused on that a little too much, and that's another conversation. But I think for the most part, it was like something that I was thankful for as well, because I was learning life lessons, but I was also learning like faith lessons as well that kind of taught me. And even though there was adversity, the coaches usually did a really good job of kind of pointing you in the right direction of like how to deal with that in a way that like glorified God as well. So.
Because I say it all the time, I truly believe that athletics are and is an amazing way to glorify God.
Amazing
because
way,
if
yeah.
you look at all of the like kind of core values as an athlete, or what like you kind of
Yeah.
look for in that, it really points back to how God really
100%,
calls us
yeah.
to live our
Yeah.
life as well. So there is a balance, and again, kind of
And
going.
the platform that you can get if you
Yeah.
are someone that's like really predominant and very good
Oh,
at the sport,
absolutely.
because of our society, like
Yeah.
the value that we place on the sport, it's a great way to glorify God. And
Absolutely.
that's why you see, bigger athletes out there that are believers and have that conviction. And you see like how God pushes them through a lot of different adversity to come to the top, to be able to like proclaim his name at the top, or
Yeah.
even through the whole journey as well. So.
Exactly. And this might be a hot topic, but kind of going back, we made a point about how, we think it was an amazing thing for like it to be centered in Christ. But I
Yeah.
also think that there was some points where it was like, I don't want to say, I don't know how to like phrase it, but not too much centered in Christ, because you can never be too much, but to the point where it was like, oh, we can't practice on this day because we have Wednesday night church service. And I know that that's important, and I know that going to church and to being in God's
Yeah.
his building and all that stuff is extremely important. But I also think as Christians we get really stuck in, well, I have to be in church, I have to only be around Christians, I have to only do this. And it's like, well, how are you going to spread the gospel? Like, God called
Yeah.
me to spread the gospel through basketball.
Yeah.
And we can't spread the gospel just by staying in one place.
Yeah.
So I think when he gives us abilities or callings or passions and
Yeah.
desires and stuff like that, he's also calling to go outward with
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're
Well,
not
that's,
saying
that's something I'm thankful
Yeah.
for even my high school coaches. He really had that desire to like work on our skill set, become good, earn respect, and not just play like other homeschool Christian basketball teams, but to get out there and just start playing all these sorts of public school teams, private school teams. And I think that was really special because it gave us an opportunity to be in game situations with unbelievers and to be able to live out that gameplay in a way that glorified God, and then even like have conversations with people, build relationships with people that you normally wouldn't get the chance to. And I'm thankful for that, because I know there were other coaches in the homeschool basketball, homeschool sports league that didn't want to do that. They were like, no, we're only playing homeschool Christian organizations. And to me, I was just like, you're missing the mark, bro.
Yeah, because what if you go and you play this like public school that maybe is like really, really does need Jesus? Like there's no Jesus there kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you go and you play, and just by you moving different, like that's a prayer of mine, is like, Lord, I want it to be that people feel different, and it's not because I say Jesus, it's because of how I move, and that you shine through me. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
So the conversation that I want to switch to is about how important it is to not only be a good teammate, but to be a good person, and how learning how to be a good person in any situation will really honestly benefit you and excel you in life. And it's a real story between like you and I, and even my best friend Chastity. I met her through Homeschool Nationals, and we literally have been best friends since then, and because of this sport called basketball. And like you and I have been able to build an amazing friendship, and your family to me really, because of basketball. That was like the glue that kind of brought us together. And I know that you went through some like difficult times, just as I did, with like friendships and relationships through sports, just through our whole like time. But I just like kind of talk a little bit about.
Doesn't mean you're going to be best friends with everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying go be best friends with your teammates, because that's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to be best friends with all of your coworkers. So there's just certain things. But yeah, kind of talk about as much as you want with your experience, but why you think it's important to, just be a good person first, and let that bleed into how you are as a teammate.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, God calls us to respect one another. God calls us to treat each other with love. That's a part of the Great Commission, and a part of just the Ten Commandments as well. And so it's very important to him. And so again, if you like have that conviction, that should be the only reason that you do it, to be honest. But obviously there are other reasons, benefits to it. I think for me, being able to like go through my basketball career and really pour into the friendships that I had, immediately it helped us play better. So if you're able to bond well with the people that you're playing with, you're going to work better as a team, as a unit, and you're going to win games. You're going to like be more successful just because you're able to play well. You look back in like history of the sport, there are lots of teams that necessarily shouldn't have won, but they had such a tight camaraderie. They had such a like deep-rooted team unit that they were able to be like really successful. You look at like Butler back in 2009 or 10 or whatever, and their run with like Gordon Hayward, they were underdogs, right? But they had like this team unit that was like unbreakable almost, and they were able to have a lot of success and almost win the Natty. So yeah, I think just being respectful to your teammates and learning things about them and truly like wanting to be friends is going to make the whole entire experience much more enjoyable for everybody. But also, life is a long journey, and you never know, when you get into different parts of it later down the road, if those relationships are going to be like beneficial to you, beneficial to them, mutually beneficial, and if you're able to rely on those people for more than just basketball. So like obviously with us, like you said, it's like we've become great friends because we've found that like our values align, and we're able to like help each other grow in a lot of different areas, and we're able to like build something together and like be creative together. And it helped like both of us, but our relationship started in basketball because we were friends there, and we didn't really disrespect each other. If we did, we made the effort to have the communication to
chat about
be better.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And even going back to that, I've experienced teams where the quote-unquote older girls really separated themselves from maybe the like freshman team or the JV girls.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And that frustrated me. I know as a senior, there was just some experiences where I felt like other seniors were really on an island by themselves. And I hated that because I'm like, no, we're all a team. We all support one another. And just because you're varsity doesn't mean you're quote unquote a better person than anyone on JV. And it's a whole team thing because as you guys know, there's a lot of girls who will play JV maybe their freshman year, and then they're taking your varsity spot that next year. And I just believe, like, again, we got to treat people as people first, not like, oh, my teammate basketball, I'm better than you, like any of those kinds of things.
Well, it's crazy how much we forget, too, because, like, we all were freshmen at one point. Like, I was a freshman at one point, and the seniors on my squad really took the challenge that our coach gave them to like include us in everything,
awesome.
And it created a team bond that was honestly the strongest I've ever been a part of. And it created a team bond that like honestly was the strongest I've ever been a part of. And still have relationships with like some of those guys. And so I remembered that when I became a senior. And I took it upon myself, and our coach challenged us again, but like we really tried to include the freshmen that came up, and they did it with the freshmen when they were seniors. And so I really love how that ripple effect happened, but it started with the seniors that were above me. And I guess my main point I was going to say was it's crazy how fast you can forget about something like that and then get into a position where you're like, oh, like I'm a senior in high school. I'm the most respected person on the planet. Like I'm a big shot. And like I made the varsity squad, I got a letter, so like you got to respect me. And it's like no, always respect the other person, no matter who it is, no matter what they did to you. Always respect that person. Give respect, give love, because if you just try to take it, you're gonna lose it just as fast as you gain it.
Yeah, exactly. And I the last podcast that just came out, I talked about like what's your legacy, like what are you leaving, what impact, and okay, cool, you might be like the big dog on the team, right? But at the end of the day, when you leave that school and the JV girls, like maybe the freshmen, are coming up, and by the time they're seniors, you're 3 years out, you're gone, you're doing your own thing. They're not going to really remember you in that way. You know what I'm saying? They're going to remember what impact you left on them. And that's a thing where it's like, it's really sad. It actually breaks my heart that there was like, a year where I spent with these girls and we like really battled together and we had like awesome memories on the court. But now like there's not that there has to be a
You
relationship,
didn't
but
go see the new Barbie with him?
I know. But it's just like
That's sad.
It's sad, but it's like it's tough because it's tough because when you look back on it, I don't remember any specific moments in the game. I remember the impact they left on me as just a person.
Yeah.
I didn't expect a friendship or like a lifelong friendship. It was just like, man, it just breaks my heart that like you weren't that great of a teammate or a person to me or to other girls, and
It's transactional.
it's transactional, and it really sucks. And that's why I really have appreciated like our friendship and you specifically, because you're someone who really does like care about people as people. So like the reason why Ben and I always stayed in contact up until we became like very, very close is like always on like birthdays. We always made sure we said happy birthday to one another. I don't know why. I think it was obviously, you know, the Lord had plans there for our friendship, but also too just like encouraging each other through like different things, like being able to witness Ben get really into like photography and videography and be on the outside of that and notice that. But because we built a solid friendship or respect, I would say respect for one another, playing the sport, then we were able to like just kind of feed into that.
Pick back up,
Now look at us, where this is a whole other story about our whole journey as friends and like different things that we've done together, and like literally you're one of the biggest reasons why I'm in California now. And honestly, if we did not have that respect, or if I did something really wrong to Ben, you know what I mean, or wasn't a great person or friend to him, I probably, wouldn't be included in all this.
Because it started, it was like the birthdays and whatnot, but then it was just like the fact that we did respect each other, and it allowed us to have conversations that you normally wouldn't have with people that aren't like super close with you. So like when we did reconnect, we were able to talk about the hard things in life, and the hard things are what bond you, because like nothing bonds two people like going through something that's hard or talking about something that's hard. And I think like it was because of that respect that we initially built up. The fact that we didn't just like take from each other, even as kids, as high schoolers, but they were always kind of like, hey, how can I like help you? Like, how can I be a friend to you? That goes a long way. So, I've had like many other like times where I've kind of reconnected with like high school teammates of mine, and it's been cool because like there have been moments where we've been able to like reconnect and like have deep conversations because of that same respect. So it's really, really important.
Yeah, and like you said, going back to the point, life is a long game. You know what I mean? So you never know, like this teammate that you had in junior high, for some reason you could circle back. And I'm actually experiencing that right now with another girl that I grew up playing with, who's now finding herself a coach. And the more to come about what we're, kind of coming up with. There's some fun stuff. But because we had mutual respect for one another, the Lord really opened the door for us to like reconnect and like be able to come together for His kingdom. Using this orange basketball, you know what I mean? And it's just the coolest thing. So you never know. I mean, people say it all the time with like jobs and stuff, like don't like burn that bridge, because you never know, like that boss could go to another company that you're going to. It's the same with sports. At the end of the day, they're people. Those people have goals and purposes and callings over their life that might be in alignment with what you're doing. And if you kind of did them wrong, you know what I'm saying, and you guys end up in that same position, there's going to be a really hard conversation there.
Or it'll just be awkward.
Or it'll just be very awkward.
You'll see them, you'll be like, hey,
not
how's
good.
it going?
But
no conversation. Or if you try to make a conversation, that other person's like, why are you talking to me?
What the
like,
heck,
you disrespected me back then. And it's not about holding like grudges, but people do remember, and they remember like character of people, and we have this thing in our head, this conscience that helps us with discernment, the Holy Spirit that allows us to like really discern who we do business with, who we become friends with, who we trust. And if you are disrespectful, that will come back around.
Absolutely.
Call it karma, call it whatever you want. It's just how things work, and it's how we as humans work. So give respect, give love, because that's ultimately what we're called to do.
I love it. Before we end off, are there any thoughts on your end?
No, not really.
Plug your IG, your
No, I don't need to plug anything. I'm good.
It will be in the description.
Click it below if you want.
He's awesome.
No, it's great to talk and even reminisce a little bit about
those were some good times.
back in the old days. It feels like a different lifetime for me, but I learned a lot of the lessons from it, so it's cool to rehash it.
It's awesome. No, it's amazing. So my contact almost slid out of my eye. This podcast is all over the place, but I love it. There's nothing. This just describes our conversations in general.
Do you want to go play one-on-one right now?
Yeah. I actually want to
break
play
your
ping
ankles.
pong first, and then we can.
All right. Play one-on-one, break your ankles, call it a day.
Whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching the Game Changers podcast. Thank you, Ben, for
Thank you for having me.
being
Love
on
you.
here. Love you,
Yeah.
too. This has been
Always
an
good
awesome
talking.
conversation. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Be a game changer.
Game changer.